I spent 3000 Trailblaze power on my Dan Heng Imbibitor Lunae, and now it's time to see if it was all worth it. I have my Dan Heng at level 75 out of 80, and if you saw my recent video for Star Rail, you'll know that I was very fortunate to get his signature light cone, and this is really crazy, especially as a free play player. So it offers 18 crit rate by default, which means that I'm already getting a pretty good jump on that. And of course, the build that I'm going to be using for him is the 4-piece Wastelander of Banditry Desert, which is really good for imaginary characters and him especially. And for the planar ornaments, I'm going to be using the Rutilant Arena, which is going to give him an increase for his basic attack and skill damage while also giving him a crit rate boost. Starting with the headpiece, I actually do have a few options here, and you're gonna see that some of the relics for this set have already been built prior to this, and that is mostly because of when Yukong came out. I used them for her, like this piece here, which has some pretty decent crit rate honestly, but very low crit damage, but some also attack percent there. Most likely this is not the one I'm going to be using because I think I can get a better one, and I'm thinking of starting with this one because it already has 2 crit subsets on it, and hopefully it can roll into them heavily. Alright, we're gonna roll it to its max. Please go into crit damage and crit rate as well. What's really important with this Dan Heng is that he gets a lot of crit rate from his traces, and in my case, because I have his weapon, I don't need so much crit rate as long as I meet that 70% threshold. So come on, crit damage. Let's see it. Yes, 21% crit damage. Let's go. That's my highest crit damage piece in Star Rail. I actually can't believe that. It does suck that none of the rolls went into crit rate. Like, you know, I want at least a little bit. Like I said, I need to reach 70%. So I need at least about 30% crit rate coming from relics after all is said and done. But wow, that's actually a really solid start, and I quite like that a lot. Now, I do have some other options here. I just want to see if I can get a 4th substat roll on these ones because a lot of them have either crit rate or crit damage. If I can get another one that has 2 subsets on it, then I will roll it. Otherwise, we'll just see what happens. So unfortunately, none of these ended up having crit rate and or crit damage, which is pretty bad, honestly. Okay, wait, this piece did give us a pretty solid crit damage roll. I feel like I want to roll it just a little bit more because if I could get a larger amount of crit damage from this piece, even though I'd be missing out on 3% crit rate, it's definitely not bad. And I want to mention I do have a lot of materials for leveling them up. I think the newest event really came clutch when it was for this. Okay, so yeah, we ended up getting shafted with this piece. It could have been so much better, but you know, I wanted to at least roll one other headpiece, so I'll just feed that into something else, but I'm quite happy with this one. Alright, moving on to the hands, I actually don't feel as confident with this because I don't have any that have 2 substats on them, crit rate or crit damage. Alright, let's see it. Come on, give me another high crit damage. Only 12%. We got every roll. Are you kidding me? I mean, it looks cool, but that's not what we're looking for. Only 12% crit damage is not gonna cut it. Alright, maybe this one with some attack percent and also crit rate will give me a really high crit rate roll. We can see that at least. Come on. 9%. Okay, not bad, but really, defense, are you kidding me? That's actually a pretty high amount of crit rate though. Moving on to the body, of course, crit damage would be preferable to crit rate because you already get so much crit rate from other ways. And I do have a crit damage body here and actually a crit rate one respectively. Both are not too great. Well, actually the crit rate one's not too terrible, but this crit damage one is not good enough for him. It has no crit rate offered whatsoever. I mean, the attack percent is not bad. Effect resistance we don't want. Crit rate, of course, I don't want to use this on him because like I said, you get so much crit rate from other means, and it does have 11 crit damage, which obviously is not terrible compared to the alternative here, but I'm gonna be using crit damage on him. But I do have a solution for this problem. As you're gonna see later on in this video, I actually did already use one self-modeling resin on him, and I'm going to use another one here. I'm not gonna be summoning on the next banner and probably even the one after that too heavily, so I might as well go full on for Dan Heng since I got him and Kafka back to back. And what I think I'm gonna be using it on is a crit damage body that can hopefully give me some crit rate with it, because if I'm gonna be running crit damage on him, I need to be getting some crit rate from this piece. All right, come on, please give me some crit rate, please. Come on, let's see it. Please give me crit rate. It doesn't, but it might. Okay, I have hope. Now this piece is already better than my other crit damage one because it has attack percent and break effect, so regardless, this is going to be the one I would use over that. Of course, defense. You hate to see it, man. Wow, why couldn't it have had crit rate on it? That was such a waste of a self-modeling resin. But it is technically a better piece than the other one. Like I said, it has attack percent on it, and it does have a little bit of break effect. The HP roll, of course, and the defense, it just hurts. That really hurts. But I am still glad that I have a crit damage piece on him already, but I definitely could have used that self-modeling resin for something else, so that is going to hurt me. All right, the feat. Now, obviously, speed is probably the best one that you can use on Dan Hong, but I do have some solid attack ones here as well. So in case I don't get lucky, because as you can see, the speed ones, I have one with crit rate, but this one has crit damage. It could roll crit rate, but I also do have these ones. So we'll see which has the best subset, and then in the future, if I have to switch to a speed one, then I can do that. All right, come on, give me crit rate and then also roll into crit damage. Give me attack, and it rolled into nothing but speed. Are you kidding me? That sucks. That truly sucks. Oh, and now the last roll decides to go into crit damage. Okay. All right, I want to roll an attack one and see if I can get maybe crit rate there. Come on, give me the luck here. Effect hit rate. Really? That sucks. Come on, crit damage. It did roll crit damage, but it wasn't a very high amount of rolls, and it's all going into effect. Why? This is not a DOT build. And the last roll went into effect resistance. So a very bad attack percent feat. Honestly, I think the speed one is definitely better in this case. Okay, maybe these attack percent feat will do better with the crit damage. So let's actually see that. Maybe they will go ahead and give me crit rate. Come on, give me crit rate. HP, man, it's always HP. All right, come on, go into crit damage then. 18% crit damage. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Of course, the other rolls are not as great. All right, so we have two solid options here, one for attack and one for speed. Obviously, I think the attack one is better substat wise. I also think having one that hits hard is really good as well. So I think that it's good to have those two options in case I want to switch in the future. These other ones though, I'll just feed into another piece. Now it's time for the planar ornaments, and this is where I usually sigh at, because not only do I end up wasting my self-modeling resin, it feels like, but I always end up getting shafted. Now this is a really great set for Dan Hong because it increases his crit rate, and once you reach 70, your basic attack and skill damage increases by 20, which is really good for him, of course, because his basic attack is like the main focus of his kit. So obviously I would love to use this set on him, but this imaginary damage one that I have right now is really trash. As is tradition at this point, I'm going to be using one of my self-modeling resins on the Planar Sphere, and honestly, I always get shafted with this, so I hope that this will be different, but that's what self-modeling resins are for in my opinion. So for now, I'll just do one, and we'll see what I am needing the other one for at the end. I might end up using it on another sphere, but let's hope that I don't need to. So come on, give me a great imaginary damage boost sphere, please. All right, let's see it. Please be good. Crit damage, yes. Okay, honestly, and it could end up having crit rate. That would be crazy. Yes, crit damage on there. Let's go. What's really sad is actually that might be my first ever sphere that I've crafted with self-modeling resin that's actually yielded something beneficial, or even crit for that matter. All right, let's see the rolls. Please give me crit rate, and then please roll into crit damage. Please, I'm begging you for the imaginary damage boost sphere. I want to have a really solid sphere for this. Come on, let's see it. It did roll into crit damage, it did, but it's not very high, and we did not get crit rate. Man, I don't know why it's rolling into every substat today. Honestly, this set could really just be saved now by a very decent attack rope. All right, moving on to the attack rope. I don't really have any good options here. I have this one, which has no crit rate or crit damage on it. This one, which actually could be particularly well, and a defense one. I got rid of an HP one. I synthesized it, but it was actually an insane rope. It had crit rate, crit damage on a 4 substat with speed. But all right, let's level this up, and I really hope it rolls well. Come on, crit rate and crit damage. Yes, 18% crit damage. That's what's up. It did give me HP though, but everything rolled into crit. Yes. All right, come on. Come on, let's see it. Crit rate. Yes. Okay, we finally caught a break, guys. This was the last piece that I'm leveling up, and honestly, it is being very clutch, and it's exactly what I'm needing it to be. All right, let's see it. Moment of truth. HP. Okay. I guess it couldn't be perfect, but that was actually really close to a perfect piece. Every single roll went into crit damage and crit rate except for that last one, and if it was a 4 substat, it probably would have went even more. Oh man, it does suck though that last roll was HP. If that would have been crit rate, oh my goodness, this piece would have been broken, but it's actually still pretty good. So this is my completed 4-piece build with the 2-piece Rutilant Arena, but I'm going to be showing it off differently this time, and I'll provide a link to the website that I used to show off the build path, because the way I see it, I actually have 2 different builds that I could use. The first one being the one that I actually have up here, which is again the 4-piece Banjo Tree with the 2-piece Rutilant Arena, and this is actually the closest I could get to a pretty solid build. I'm not too disappointed with it, and as you can see, every single stat has at least some amount of crit on it, but some of these pieces could have been better. Obviously, Brighter Than the Sun is doing some pretty heavy lifting with the crit rate value, and you also need to take in consideration to whatever crit rate value I end up showing is actually lower than what it would actually be, because once I get my final trace, I will have an additional 5.3 crit rate, meaning this build right here technically has 61.1, and the 4-piece Banjo Tree does give you an additional 10% crit rate when you're attacking debuffed enemies, and because I'm running my Dan Heng with Pela, I technically will have a 71.1% crit rate value with this build with 184 crit damage, which is also not even considering the fact that his crit damage also increases by 20% against imprisoned enemies, and then an additional 24% against imaginary weakness characters once you have that trace. So when you take in all those things together, this is what my final crit rate and crit damage value technically look like under those perfect circumstances. Now, because I don't have 70% crit rate on my actual stats, unless I take into considerations those special circumstances that I can use, there is another build that I can use in the meantime, technically, until I get this build up and running with 70% guaranteed crit rate. Which brings me to my other option for a build, which only changes out the planar ornaments, and this one has Celestial Differentiator, which gives me 16% additional crit damage, and it also has better substats on these planar ornaments than my other set does. And this is what the stats look like for this build. As you can see, my crit rate is a little bit lower here, but that is also not taking into consideration the other buffs that I have mentioned. But like I said, it also has better subsets on it. As you can see, the Sphere and the Rope both have crit damage and crit rate on it, which is actually really good compared to the other set that I have. But I would be missing out on the bonus from the other planar ornament set, which is really good for Dan Heng. But like I said, I don't have a guaranteed 70% crit rate on that one unless I use all of the means that I can, like debuffing enemies, and if I'm not able to do that every time, then I'm technically missing out. And this set does offer me 20% extra damage for crit damage, so until I get like a better imaginary damage sphere for the other set that has more crit damage and some crit rate on it, I could alternatively use this one, but I'll leave it up to you guys to decide which set you think I should be using. And that's gonna wrap up my Trailblaze power video for Dan Heng and Imbibitor Lunae. I had a lot of fun building this character because it was interesting, and it even came down to the wire with some really clutch relics. Not to mention, he is the first character in Honkai Star Rail that I have the signature weapon for from the gacha banners. I don't really consider Bronya that way because, you know, I got her from the normal banner. This weapon I got from the weapon banner, and I'm incredibly lucky for that, and I can't wait to use him, especially because I can still improve on his build, and no matter which set I use, he's going to be doing a lot of damage. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.